I'm, we will have a master class from Kristina Petrukhnova. She's an expert in effective communications and negotiations. She is vice president for communications and regions and strategy of the strategy, and also a faculty member of the higher school for economics. And also, she's a winner of several prestigious awards. So, Christina, the floor is yours. Good morning, everyone. Today we'll be discussing how to read a person in 5 minutes, and I think this topic is number A in applicable psychology of relationship and communications. So Grigori introduced me. So we'll be talking about how to do negotiations and how to take personal traits of people into account. So I worked with multiple companies. I was recognized as the best speaker. I worked with several editions, and I'm president of JCI Imperium. I received a prize of Successful Ladies Awards. And last year also my main negotiations took place with Armenian president. We agreed on cooperation. Pandemic adjusted my plans, but our cooperation goes forward. In the end of my presentation, I would like to give a gift to each one of you. That's some tips on how to build communications with different types of people, and how to get it. You need to sign up to my Instagram. And how this methodology was developed, how can you read people? And so, to tell you briefly, in the beginning of the last century, there was a boom of studying human beings because they wanted to control people on a mass scale and understand particularities of beings and how to develop communication. So that was important for government purposes, and multiple scientists developed those topics, and one of them was Ernst Kreshner, who was a German psychiatrist who observed people in clinics, and he wrote a book in which he wanted to prove that person character and human body are interrelated, and people who were in that clinic were different between each other, not only in terms of their body build and their external characteristics, but also interests and motivations in their activities were different, and that's what he devoted his work to. After him, there was a whole series of scientists who try to figure out how in our normal society you can use that knowledge. And one of the followers of him, Carl Leonhard, took the work of Ernst, and he was a psychiatrist, but he started observing normal people through this prism of Kretschmer did, and Leonhard noticed that our behavior is very similar to people who are in psychiatric clinic, but it's more moderated, it's more restricted. Leonhard um, introduced this idea in the book called Accentuated Personalities. That means we have some accents. And what are accents in our character? So by knowing that, you can know what strengths are, how you can interact with that person, what arguments should be used in negotiations to have success for you to reach your objective in negotiations. You can say those are personality types, even though that's not exactly right. So before I tell you about those personality types, or actually I'm going to be talking about accents, personality accents, and how you define them. And once you understand them better, I would like to also tell you a few things how that character is shaped when they say that a person enters this world as a blank slate. Of course, it's not true because we have some biogenetic platform that we enter as. A baby is born and it has a psychological, a psyche structure which is genetically determined, and that biogenetic platform then acquires social stereotypes. It learns social stereotypes and behavioral stereotypes. And this is how it happens. So let's say a baby tries a candy for the first time in their life, and it feels like the best thing in life, and they want to get another one. And if you remember how babies or kids try to get that candy, you may have multiple reactions. Some cry, some make like a fit. Others start begging, mama, please, please. Others are very insistent. If they're not given that candy, they go for it and take it themselves. So there are different ways to behave, and kids do memorize those behaviors, so neural networks form. So that say, okay, this way of achieving your objective works. And when you're about 15 or 16, so the crossroads of that biogenetic platform and those stereotypes, your character is formed, and it doesn't change afterwards. So the accents of your character, your personality, they are understood, and by knowing them, you can know how to better develop communications with that person, because you cannot achieve great results in negotiations without that. But you interact with different people, but and you cannot do the same thing with different people. So, and we respond differently to different situations. A minor accident, let's say road accident happened, some people respond, they are crying, some people are crying, others are aggressive, others are waiting for the traffic police to arrive, they're more constructive. Others, maybe check their lipstick and make sure they look fine. So, same situation, but people respond in different ways because they all have their own accents and their personality. And people stick to that accent most of the time. So, the essence of this methodology says that you need to understand people's accent, and you create conditions that fit those people, then people that are not stressed, they trust you better, and you communicate much better with them, and you can achieve better your goals. So Leonhard, let me remind you, he said there are 6 such accents, and there are some markers, some indicators that tell you which accents people have that you are talking to. So let me tell you about those markers. So those are external appearance, so body build or the way they dress. Another thing, speech. Most likely you've run into people who speak very slowly, and those who speak very fast, and there's no way to catch up with them. So pantomimics, behavior characteristics, those are markers that you use to better understand how to communicate with that person to achieve maximum results. So let's go and look at them one by one. Those are scientific names, so that may be a little complicated. But I added pictures, so you would have some associations with that, and you'd better understand. And okay. So the first accent is called hysteroid accentuation. So if you have a pen and a piece of paper, so the key mode is to attract an attention to them. So the key thing for them is to attract attention to the sound. If you see that person, so they want to get attention to themselves. If they are not noticed, they may start getting nervous, conflictual, they may start complaining about the service, etc. So that's their type. So their key thing is attracting attention to themselves. How can you tell that person is that way? Hysteroid accentuation. So one of the market that comes from Leonhard's work, those people are hyperplastic bodies. Those people have um, very expressive appearance, and stylistically they stand apart. So they're there to be seen, to be noticed. Their speech, their pantomimics are aimed at, it's they're like actors on the stage. They want to get a round of applause. Those people in their speech, they can play with their intonations. They can speak louder than quieter. They use very interesting, rare words. So they like some ornamentation. Gestures are mostly directed towards themselves to emphasize their position. So when you're in front of that person, you should understand you need to compliment them. It's important to recognize their status and importance, and uh, and that then that person will feel okay talking to you. They'll be able to trust you, and your arguments with that person should be like, if you buy our product, then your boss will not be able not to appreciate. He will surely appreciate, and he will promote you because of this great deal. You'll get praise from your boss, or your dress is so great, it looks so wonderful. So that's a great choice, and that works both for men and women. So those people do want to draw attention to themselves. So the next accentuation that we have, it's called epileptoid accentuation. That's the people, for them, the key motivation and what matters for them is domination. They want to dominate without going into depths, because this lecture takes about 8 hours and I have 20 minutes today. So I want to tell you about all the key points for you to be able to use that in your life. So these people want to dominate, and it's fear inspired. So they want to control everybody. They will accuse others of things. So they're stubborn. So these are epileptoid people. So in terms of appearance, they have a strong build, or they may be thin, but they're very stressed. So muscular, angular, not very flexible, and also their brain has a special structure, and they think in algorithms. So when you interact with them, you should share information through this prism. So we do this, the first thing, second thing, third thing. There should be clear algorithms. Then they will hear you, they will follow you. On top of that, there's a group of people who have tactical thinking, so they're not able to think about the future. They think about only about here and now. So your argument should be about here and now. So benefit about today. So it's available today, right now, 20% off. So if you tell that person about something about strategically about the future benefits, they will not hear that because their brain is not able to perceive that information, that context. Another important point, when you talk to an epileptoid personality, you should be in a position lower than them. You are an expert, you're a confident person, you're a great negotiator, you know your product, but that person, Mr. John Jones, decision is yours. You're the boss here, so you should recognize their superior position, and then they will be relaxed. They'll be no stress. So the next accentuation I would like to discuss is paranoid accentuation. People who are stuck on their goal, on some study, on some topic. In one way or the other, they reach that goal. Even if they fail, they still persist, and they see no alternatives because they're just stuck with that idea, with that belief. So if we talk about their appearance, normally it's classical style, pretty standard. Um, so their gestures can be somewhat abrupt. They're fairly confident in their speech, and logical and assertive. And strategic component plays more a better role, a greater role in them. So they think more about the future. So, so the main mistake that you can make with them when you don't know your product or your topic well enough, because paranoid accentuation, they assess your knowledge and they go deep in their knowledge. Next one, maniacal accentuation. So paranoid accentuation. So for them, leadership and achieving the goal is the key thing. When you interact with them, you should focus on their objective, that you can personally be helpful for them to achieve their goals, some global goals. So maniacal accentuation, they're optimists, very positive, hyperactive. And this category of people, the key motive is to find something new and enjoying those new things. So they're very broad in their gestures. They're able to establish contact in a moment. They can meet people on the go, on the plane, at the hotel. They have lots of acquaintances. Everybody remembers them, and they don't remember anybody. So these people are inconstant. Unlike the paranoid people, they don't get stuck to anything. They don't stick to anything. They keep moving to new things. They're very positive. So when you negotiate with such a people, you should use informal communications. Arguments or do not work. Storytelling works to make them tick, and they agree quickly. And you should sign the contract right away because they can change their mind tomorrow. So, and they once again they do not stick on anything. They keep moving. So next one, psychosthenic accentuation. So people with a weak psyche, basically. So people who from their childhood, because of the upbringing, have this complex inferiority when the child comes to the kindergarten, and 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 there's competition between the kids, like I can do this better, or I have better looks, or let's build a castle, sand castle, I can do it better than you. And so this kid understands that all kids have some tools to interact in this world, but they don't have those tools. Their parents didn't teach them how to do it. So they try not to attract attention to them. They do not like to be in the spotlight. Mm, they have high intellect, oftentimes highly developed. But when you interact with those people, you need to understand you should not, it should be something personal, person to person, eye to eye. They should feel protected, safe, and your sincerity should be obvious to them. When you want to help them, they should understand that. Otherwise, it doesn't go well. And oftentimes, they attend negotiations as observers because you should be. And schizoid accentuation, the last one that we will discuss, those are people that are non-standard, very creative in their thinking. People, in terms of their body structure, they can be tall and disproportionate, or on the opposite, they can be just sitting at a computer and writing programs. They have stories to tell. They can be very philosophical and long-winded, but they're very strange and bizarre, but only from our perspective. But these people can create something new, something that never existed before, because they're so non-standard. They don't follow stereotypes. So when you interact with those people, you should keep some distance from them, because if you start praising them too much, they can be attached to you, they can start following you, and that may be a problem. So I told you about those 6 accentuation. Some people saw themselves there, say, okay, that's me. Or you can say, maybe I'm here and I'm there. And that's okay because all the six accentuations are part of us. But there's one which is the best fit for us, and there's secondary. So two main ones. So if you're like Steve Jobs, if you're like paranoid, you stick to one goal, one objective, or hysteroid, like Paris Hill, when you want to draw your attention to yourself, so that people will be attaining their objective through communications, through presentations, through networking, using other communication techniques. Or if you look at Trump's basic, it's epileptoid. He wants to dominate, but the second one, his steroid, so he is demonstration. So he dominates and he wants to demonstrate that. He wants everybody to see that. So when you see basic accentuation, when you determine that for every person, you can better understand how to develop communications with them. And my course covers that in kristinadrive.ru. You can look it up there. And as I promised, there I have a gift for you. Tips on communications with people of different types. And to get it, you need to sign up to my Instagram channel. So at Kristina Drive, and in direct messaging, write to me. I want to have a gift from you. I want to give. So in a nutshell, that's it for me. I try to stay on time. A great master class. I think our participants and will be able to use this knowledge. We received many questions, but I have time only for three of them. Okay, so the first one, is it possible to change yourself? So this question is the most popular whenever I speak. Is it possible to change yourself? I say you should not change yourself. You should apply or use yourself, because we all have, whoever watches this video, you all have individual characteristics. They're well developed. You need to define them, you need to identify them, and you can be better in some things than other people. For instance, I don't have any schizoid. I'm not a creative person. I'm very pragmatic. I can take courses on creativity and design thinking, but I will not ever be like that person who has that genetically. And they don't have to try hard to be that way. They can resolve complicated, non-standard problems, and they can be creative. That should be understood. So you should select the profession, the job that fits you, considering your characteristics. So how do you select people for employees using these characteristics? So you need to identify, so for that position, what characteristics matter. And then, let's say paranoid characteristic should be the basic one for this job, so that situation should be there. If we talk about a sales manager who need to make presentations all the time, and they should make good impressions, so hysteroid uh, type will work, because that's fits with that job. Okay, great. Thank you very much for that. And the third question, can you deceive people and pretend to be somebody else? That's a good question. We said in the beginning that we have some markers that help us identify the personality type. If that person comes to an interview, of course they can start pretending to be somebody else, especially if they had the time to prepare. But we look at all the markers, and we normally have only one process. We have control only one process. If we focus on our speech, we forget about our gestures, etc. And so if you're emotional, uh, if you get very emotional and you start reading a book when you are so emotionally engaged, you will not be able to focus on that. You will not be able to understand the sense of the meaning of the sentence. So that's why it's impossible to hide all the markers, and we look at all of them, and we identify the basic accentuation. And okay, thank you very much for that. Okay, goodbye for now.